Welcome back to the studio. Welcome back to the channel. We're back on RC cars this week, and part two of building this, restoring this Lynx. I didn't film a lot of the polishing because who wants to watch somebody polish a piece of metal? But if you go back and look at the first video, you can see a vast improvement over this. This is magnesium. It was practically kind of corroded and charcoal gray, almost black. We sanded and polished up the cinch block. We polished the hubs, and then I sanded and polished the motor mount to get some of the machining marks out. We could have took this to the next level, but I started with 400 and stepped it down to 1500 wet, and then used the trusty old Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. Always works good on this stuff. All right, we're going to start with the front end. I'm going to go ahead and build the car in the same short wheelbase that it was in. It will be run on a short track, a short oval, and these cars tend to be a little tight on flat tracks, so shorter wheelbase will hopefully help with that. All right, there's your basic front end setup. You got a floating block and you got a cinch block. And since we got this all polished out, we're going to make a little bit of clearance. Went ahead and bolted it to the chassis with just a one screw, screwed it to the chassis, and we're going to give it just a little bit of tweak just to open it up. Minimal, just to open that up because we don't want to scratch our beam up that we just polished. And it doesn't matter which end this goes up because it's not drilled. The optional front end does have different camber. So in order to get this in there without gouging it up, we just made a little gap there and see it slid right in super clean. Everything in this car was pretty much new. I don't think it was ever completed. All right, we got it kind of snugged up so it ain't sliding around freely. I'll just measure my side to side and make sure we are pretty equal. We'll just go to the hole and then the back side of the cinch block. And that's not bad for the old eagle eye. Basically, right on it, right off the bat. Look at that. What's next? We'll put the kingpins in. Trying to make this interesting, but it is what it is. It's not a very complex kit. And well, I guess some point in the video we got to run down to Anderson RC. A couple loose ends we got to pick up. I do need to get some more body mounts and some odds and ends, motor cleaner, because I think we're going to run this Joel Johnson motor. I think that would be fitting to run the brush setup in it. This car worked really well when it was done, back in the day, but it's almost a shame they had so much technology and so much advanced rear suspension that they opted for the simple front end. The car was a game changer back in the day, but it would have been even more so if they would have had some kind of fancy front end to go on it. Pretty much your front end. All thing we got to do is put I did polish the kingpins. I put them in a drill with some steel wool and also with the mothers, and freed them up quite a bit. So we got to do a little looby-dooby on there, and that's very simple front end setup. I'm putting the stock springs back on it. That's what came with the kit. They appear to be stock. They're not any. They're not different colors. Generally, well, back then a lot of times they had used color to separate the spring weights. Or you can just simply take a set of calipers and measure the diameter of the spring wire, and that'll tell you if it's 20 thousandths, 10 thousandths, 18 thousandths, whatever. All right, again, with these blocks, you got a short wheelbase and a long wheelbase. That's the difference in these holes. I think we're going to go ahead and run long in the rear. That pushes the rear pod out further. I know I was going to run short wheelbase, but we're just going to run short in the front. We're going to run the back out to, by moving the back out, hopefully it'll have more weight to the front. in theory. I'm thinking maybe. We're pushing the rear pod away from the chassis, and we can put more weight towards the front if we need it. Again, we're running breakout. We're not going to try to get super technical here. So that just goes to the chassis with these associated style 832 screws. These are nylon, so they just get aluminum screws, no big deal. I think it was Raceway Manufacturing back in the day did make an aluminum rear pod mount, and that was super cool, and I've got one on that car. Super rare parts to find anything upgrade for these things, because it's been 30 years. And even back then, oval racing was still, it was big as it was still kind of a niche part of the hobby. Off-road's always been #1 in the eyes of the magazines and a lot of racers and kids and stuff. For obvious reasons, they jump and turn left and all that good stuff, but they're dirt. All right, went ahead and put the pin in. We'll line this one up. We got to put the arm in. Where'd the arm go? It just slides on the pin. Make sure you get your wheelbase adjustment in the proper hole. We are good. There's our free moving rear suspension. Run a little bit longer screw on the nylon side just because it's nylon, and give it a little bit more thread to bite into, because the short screws are not even 1/8 inch threads. They're tiny, so I don't want to turn them in there and turn the threads out. All right, there's your rear pod. Super simple, just made a box basically. And we'll attach the rear pod to the chassis. I think this screw might be long enough. We'll compare it to what came out of the kit. Getting this little nut on here is a little tricky with those extra long screws that are sticking up. We are reusing the nylon nut, the nylon lock nut. It's aluminum. There's nothing wrong with them. They weren't even marred up. They're not corroded. All right, pod, rear suspension. All right, there's our boomerang installed. We'll go ahead and put the sway bar on. Now, I did order a set of cap head screws, but they're not due to be here till way after this video is made, so we're going to go ahead and use the standard stock screws that come with it. They're not too bad. They're a little bit brown, so we might run a little polish on them. It might at least clean the brown off. And Mother's is good stuff. It's a mini trucker's best friend, and or pan car's best friend, because it definitely polishes metal up nice. This is the factory sway bar that was in the car when I got it. It was all brown and rusted, steel wool and some others. Saved it. We could have simply made a new one with just buying some music wire at the hobby shop and bent one ourselves, but trying to restore this car and run it as factory as possible with minor upgrades. We might change the shock. I think I mentioned that shock is garbage and they're hard to build. And I want to pause you for a second because I don't have all my screwdrivers. I need one more. All right, we got that installed. Next up is the end links for the sway bar. We're going to make sure these are the way they came from whoever built this car, and they look like they did a good job. They appear to be the same length. So they just simply slide on. And judging by how far you pull this linkage back is where it shifts the weight to left or right. So that's your side shocks that you would have on a modern car. All right, we're at pretty much a stopping point until we go to the hobby shop. I need to pick up some new Lynx here. I'm not going to run these. I could clean these up. They are steel. But I think we're going to go ahead and opt for the titanium just for the fact that they won't rust anymore. Not really an advantage. I've never broken one of these steel ones or even bent one. I've never been hit hard enough to do that. So not really an upgrade as performance as much as it is durability as far as just the looks of it. I don't want rusty parts, and I don't want to have to constantly clean rust off. I guess you could clean them up and paint them. Save you $1, but we're going to go ahead and opt for the titanium. Plus the titanium, you can adjust them a little bit easier with a little wrench here versus trying to run a pin through them. So that's one of the minor upgrades. It's just a matter of convenience more so than performance. So we're going to run down to Anderson. We're going to pick up the new steering turnbuckles. We are going to run modern day high strength ball ends from RPM. And I'm going to also pick up some turnbuckles for the steering rather than using the bone stock factory ones. Again, not a performance advantage, just a convenience because this has the same hole for adjustment. And a little bit aggravating to set the toe. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade those, just a minor upgrade, so a few bucks. So let's run to the hobby shop, grab some body mounts, some turnbuckles, and we'll get back on it. All right, we're back from the hobby shop. We ran down to Anderson and picked up a few things that we needed to at least get this thing rolling. First thing we did build the diff. I didn't record any of that. It was just basically just cleaning what was there and putting it back together. The bearings and everything still appear new. Still feels really smooth. So only thing I did upgrade was the diff nut. I put an aluminum diff nut on it because the nylon was old and they tend to get a little soft and your diff will self-adjust and come loose. So I like aluminum diff nut. So we did do that. Went ahead and built one of the Lynx. We are upgrading them. That's another minor upgrade. We're going with the Hanger 9 titanium turnbuckles. And not because they're titanium, just because they won't rust. And they have this adjuster in the center versus having to run a little key wrench through there or something run through that hole. That gets a little aggravating when you got the little tool here that makes it a lot easier. And what also makes it easier is having instructions around. These cars came with 2 instructions manuals. One of them was written and one of them was a pictorial. And with the written content, we did have the exact length of this link. It's 2 15/16 overall length. That's not hole to hole, but that's overall length. And so we went ahead and mocked one up. Got it on there. Got it close to that. And once we got it on the car, we could adjust it with a few turns. And we're down to, where's my note right here, 2.937 inches. And that's for long wheelbase. So we're good to go. And with that, we did buy some new Dubro ball ends. The ball links, the heavy duty. We're not using any of the hardware out of here. We're just basically bought it for the plastic, and we'll put the hardware in the toolbox for future projects. Because that's one unique thing with these cars. The balls that the ball links go into are these. I just happen to have 4 extra ones laying around. And I ran them through some mother's polish and chromed them out. Got them silky smooth. And these are Dubro links that come with the car originally. As you can tell, they're very similar. They are the same thing. The only thing that the factory, the kit, they have a little 256 screw with a lock nut. And the hardware that comes with the ball ends are just a little flathead screw that screws into the plastic. Works fine, but under a lot of vibration and stress of a car running, it's good to have a lock nut because you want to cinch these things down where they're still free moving, but not too loose where they'll come apart. And to be consistent, it's good to have a lock nut on it. The factory ones just have a little screw that screws into the nylon, so that could possibly get weak after a few adjustments. So it's good to have the screws. We're going to reuse these screws and the factory balls, but new ball ends. All right, we're back. Got both of the Lynx installed. Starting to look like the cool car that they are. Did a little tweaking, a little tinkering, and got these measured out right. And I think I said earlier, one way to check it, just to be sure when you're all said and done, even if your measurements are 100%, just to get a visual, run a straight edge on the bottom of the chassis. You want it to touch both ends of the pod and be perfectly flat. And I believe we have achieved that. And there you go. There's your squared up chassis. Next thing, we're going to go ahead. I'm debating on maybe running that stock shock since we are running on a really smooth surface. And the shock's a little stiff. These cars tend to be tight. Maybe a little stiffer shock in the rear may help it turn a little bit. So we might go completely old school, sort of. Even though we got a few upgrades here. We may go ahead and... this shock doesn't feel terrible. I don't know if it's got any oil in it. I'm scared to take it apart. But yeah, I might take it apart. See if I can get it to feel a little bit better. And instead of cutting the shock mount, because to run the shock mount with a full-size buggy shock, like a front shock that we used to upgrade these to, you had to cut about a 1/4 inch off this shock mount. And this being 100% original, I really don't want to cut into it and see if we can get this shock working, because it's going to look so much better in there, I think, with all the silver and black situation we got going here. So, yeah, let me hop off here and see if I can get this shock feeling any better. We'll go ahead and install the shock. And then once we get the shock on, we throw the wheels on and have this thing rolling. All right, we got the shock semi-rebuilt and installed. There was another clue that this car hasn't been run. It had oil in the shock, and the oil is kind of orangey yellow. And that tells me that it wasn't run much because back then we didn't have silicone shock oil. We just had like standard oil in different weights. And as that oil would break down and or used a lot and just rubbing against the aluminum body, it would turn into a sludgy black gray color, and it was still orange, kind of orangey yellow. So we did drain that. I've refilled it with some silicone associated 30 weight, and it went together a lot easier than I experienced in the past. Feels pretty decent. It's going to be plenty good for the track we're getting ready to run it on. So there it is. There's our fully assembled rear suspension and diff. Only thing left to do now is we're going to throw a bumper on. These cars never came with a bumper. These chassis did tend to splinter if you hit something. You're really supposed to glue the edges with CA, and then or file it and then glue it and then sand and polish it. But we're not going to go through all that. We're going to simply install a bumper. And one of the old tricks back in the day was associated 10L bumpers. The holes are a little bit big, but they actually lined up. The only thing is, for the 10L purists with a white bumper, I hope you don't get mad, I did sand off one of the ribs. This rib right here for strength on top, there was one straight across the back on the bottom. And what that did, it lined up with the chassis, so it protected the edge. That's on the 10L. On this car, it kept it from lining up exact. So once you clean that edge off, it lines up with the factory holes. These are drilled for 832 screws. We're not going to drill the chassis, so we're just going to run a washer on top and run 440s through it. Same deal with the body post. The associated come with those really thick, like the RC10 buggy, but taller, with the 832 in them. We're just going to simply run a washer and run our standard body post. All right, we pretty much have a roller now, minus the rolling parts. There's our associated bumper with the slight modification. And like I said, these holes are drilled for 832 screws like these right here. We simply put a thin washer and act like a dimple die. When you draw it up, just don't draw it too much and strip your body mount out. It draws the washer in, makes it kind of conical shaped. And no chance of it hitting the carpet versus the chassis because it's steel with that sitting on top of the chassis, the bumper sitting on the chassis. That screw right there is way higher than anything else on the car, so it's not going to hit the carpet or anything. We'll get the wheels on it and get the body on it, and then we're going to wrap this video up today. And there you go. It's looking pretty cool. Brand new. 30 years old. So, yeah, let's throw the wheels on it. Alright, nothing like the fresh smell of fresh foam. I will be truing these up a little bit before we race it. I'm going to cut a little bit of camber in the front wheels since this car doesn't have any camber adjustment. I might throw just maybe 2 degrees camber in the tire. These are the original bearings. They've been sitting in WD-40 for a week. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way to do things, but it felt like the thing to do at the time because they are perfectly fine. I don't think the car was run long enough to even get them dirty. There you go. We're running the same little aluminum nuts that come with the wheel, that come with the car. I've never had an issue with those coming loose. So no need to upgrade that or to change it. But now we have a roller. Up next will be electronics after we get the body mounted, but we're not going to do electronics in this video. We're going to save that for the running video because it's pretty basic. We're going to throw a servo in it and put a speed control motor in it. There's really no tips or tricks there. We're going to clean this motor and put it in there, I believe. We're going to go ahead and run the retro motor since it's not brand new and mint. It's new as it can be, but it's not mint because somebody did solder on the capacitors and cut through the label doing it. So we're going to run it. We're going to clean it up and run it. It ought to be fast enough to break out. And we'll probably put a Hobbywing 1060 in here just for the cost effectiveness, and it's a very durable little speed controller, and we're not going to worry about some 30-year-old electronics. The motor I'm not worried about at all, but I don't want to throw a 30-year-old speed controller in there and damage it or waste my time and it break down while we're at the track. So we got a roller. Let's get our body, which is a repop of the '89 Thunderbird. This is from Sabulitech, old RC. They on Facebook, they're on YouTube, they're on all the tubes. They do not answer their YouTube or their Facebook Messenger in fear of getting hacked. So if you want to contact them, go to their website or go to their eBay page. I'll buy all the bodies from eBay. So they got a lot of Bowlink molds, and they do a really good job. They're usually really clean. This body's thick and durable. That's not necessarily what you want to race with because it's a little thick and heavy. But again, breakout and ancient car here. We're not super worried about the weight. A lightweight version might be a little more performance. It's going to lower the CG a little bit. So, but we're running breakout. We'll be all right. So we're going to get this car up on stand so we can get it off the wheels and throw its body on. All right, and by stand, I mean a roll of tape. We just want to get the wheels off the ground and get the body set on here. We're going to kind of just eyeball it. It's obviously easier when it's clear. And keep it in mind that we are running short wheelbase with the trailing arm steering blocks. If we had the on centers and a little less caster in there, our wheelbase would be longer, so we'd have to move the body back further. So we're going to move it back about as far as we can get it with the short wheelbase because it's going to look a little goofy if we don't do it quite right. It's going to be too much body hanging off, too much overhang. So try to find a happy compromise here. And again, just kind of eyeballing it. And I'm using, you can't see it on camera, but there are markings for scale points, I guess, scale hood pins. So we're going to assume those are symmetrical, and Bowlink was pretty good about that back in the day, so I believe they are. So we're going to mark this thing and then measure it out and see how symmetrical we are. No need to measure the rear because it is not the same from side to side with the body post anyways with the axle spacing. So technically we're a little bit far that way, which is good for turning left. Now check out the old eagle eye versus the body pin that's molded into the car. We have hit it pretty good again. We're on the outside of that hole on my point. And just barely to the inside of the hole to my point. So I think that's going to be good enough. Make sure it's far enough back. This body has no wheel openings. You have to judge where you want it. And then we'll trace a 2-inch wheel. I got a buggy wheel. We'll set on there and trace it for wheel openings. The body's very generic. There's no markings on the side whatsoever. other than the windows. So it leaves it open to a lot of different cars. Back in the day, these bodies were very universal. They weren't specific to Bowlink cars. They were, if you raced oval, you ran Bowlink bodies. We're going to creep up on this hole. We don't want to make it too big where the body's flopping around. Make it just big enough for the post to go through. If my memory serves me right, these 3.5-inch body posts on the rear are just about perfect height for this body. You use the top hole. You don't even have to modify them, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute. It's been 30 years of minutes. Yeah, it looks like we're going to be really good just by eyeballing it that the top hole for the post is going to be the one we want. The front post, we got 2.5-inch body post. We are going to have to lower that quite a bit. We probably could have went with 2-inch. If we would have used the factory holes for the body post on the chassis, 2.5 would have been the way to go, but no big deal. I don't mind cutting off too much. I can't make body post. So there we go. I'm going to set these height adjusters, and then we'll draw out the wheels. All right, I got the body on. I got the height set. Went ahead and put pins in it just to hold it in place so it'd be a little less fumbling around. I did cut the excess flashing off the edge just to get the surface flat for the buggy wheel. This is a 2.2-inch buggy wheel from JC Racing. It's for a Yokomo. It's a repop. But anyways, you can tell I've used it quite a bit, all the Sharpie on it. It is perfect diameter for pan cars. Whether you run your tires down the baloney skins or full-size tires out of the bag, this works. So I'll simply use that big hole in the center, and I'll go slightly off-center to the back, and get my thumb on it, lock it in place, and trace around. There you go. All right, with the precision of a barber, we got our wheels cut out, slightly rounded the edges. You can always go back and use a little sandpaper if you want to sharpen anything up, but that did pretty good. My preferred scissors are the gurugurudesigns. I am not sponsored by them. They do awesome stuff though. I'm not sponsored by anyone except myself. And a few members. If you want to be a member, just click on that membership button. I do have that. I only had 8. I think I've had 8 members for about a year now. So memberships do include just a little quick Friday video, just a little BS session, maybe some behind the scenes stuff. But I try to give a little bit back. But if you do join the membership, it's basically just to support the channel and keep the projects flowing. So that would be greatly appreciated if you hit that join button. But anyways, back to the car here. I haven't pushed that membership program very much, but it's there if anybody would like to support the channel. I think we're pretty good on ride height. It's obviously going to change once I true the tires up. They're going to get slightly smaller. I'm not going to get crazy with them and cut them down to nothing. I'm going to cut them just a little bit. And we still have plenty of ride height adjustments in the rear. We just kind of set it generically, not quite in the middle. I didn't get the actual height of the chassis, but I just kind of set the adjusters just above middle, not all the way up or all the way down. So we got room to grow. But there you have it. There's our Lynx 2 Elite restored. New screws for the most part, new tires, original bearings, original spur gear, original hub, axle, original shock, even a little Delta shock. So the next time you see this, it will be painted. It will be on the track. We're not going NASCAR themed. If you are a racer, a carpet racer, or oval racer from the 90s, you will recognize a Chris Dosek paint job. That's what I got in mind. My plotter is still down, so there's no numbers, no lettering. Chris's car had a lot of symmetrical or geometrical designs and clear pinstripes and lots of sponsor decals. And I believe I got some old decals in the box that would fit right for the theme here. So we're going 90s oval racer themed, and subscribe for that. That will be coming up soon. And all you newcomers that are here, I picked up quite a few subscribers from the mini truck show. This is also what we do, so my channel is kind of up and down and all over the place. We do have some vloggy stuff from vacations and RC racing and mini trucks. I don't dedicate the channel to one thing specifically, so I'm sure the algorithm is going to drop pretty hard after this one because their RC videos don't do great, but this is what I really love, along with mini trucks. This is a little bit more affordable, and this takes me back to my childhood. The mini truck takes me back to my teenage years, and yeah, never grow up, just getting older. So here we go. This is it for this week's video. I hope you like it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, you'll get notifications when we get this thing painted and on the track. We got to get a servo and a speed control. We're going to run that motor, and it's going to be cool. We got to get some wheel dots. We're going to be true, authentic to Chris Dosek, but we got to get some dots. So there you have it. There's our Lynx 2. We'll see you next time. Thanks.